All right, I do want to talk about since we are kind of talking about the fan and the ticket and sports media, and we talk some sports. Uh, but I do want to kind of talk about the role of sports media, and it's really been highlighted of late as the Cowboys are just this out of control dumpster fire, and it does come down to the way Jerry behaved with the guys on 105.3 The Fan with Sean and RJ and Bobby, and then the Trayvon Diggs thing. So, do you think that the Cowboys organization, and maybe you can go from front office to the players. And I'll start with you on this one, KT. Do you think that the Cowboys have a good understanding of what the actual relationship is with local media?
Nope. I don't think they do at all, and I don't even know that they should, because these guys are young. And I was thinking about this with the Trayvon thing. Like Trayvon on the Micah podcast, once I finally got a chance to listen to all of it, like I pulled the clip that went viral and we played it on the show of him just, basically saying why he did it and Micah questioning him. When you listen to that entire podcast, and it's a tough listen, like 7 to 10 minutes after that happens, he starts going on about how Nick Saban taught him, like, hey, eyes on the prize. We don't let outside distractions get to us, and how that's really built him into the man that he is today. Like, these guys are just living this thing, and it's louder than it's ever been because of social media and national coverage that goes with the Cowboys, which has always been there, but it's still even more than it was 30 years ago. So, like, they don't know. They really don't. I think maybe they might know the guys who, I don't know. I thought for a minute that they thought all the guys worked for the Cowboys. And what Jerry said was crazy. Jerry might have said that on his own. I don't think Jerry is like we give Jerry a lot of free passes, I think. I don't think he's as calculated as we've maybe given him credit for.
He's not.
Or I think
He's not.
I don't want to say it. I think it's just kind of willy nilly. And I think he knew he was on the radio, but I don't think he really knew the details of who paying for who.
Dude, it's so a couple things. Number one, I think I'm fascinated by this, and probably I'm fascinated by it because one, I grew up, when I was in high school, I wanted to be the Mavs beat writer. I wanted to be a guy named Jan Hubbard, who is the Dallas Morning News beat writer for the Dallas Morning News. So I cared about journalism. That's dead for the most part. It's changed very much. We've gone through the rise of social media. We've gone through the rise. I mean, you can go online right now and see people talking about citizen journalism, whatever the fuck that means.
Huh?
That's no. People go cape for that. So what that means is a guy who hasn't studied standards can go say what he wants. That's what
You
that
can
means.
do that on social media.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And that's where I'm going. The modern 23-year-old, especially the modern pampered 23-year-old that's rich and has people tell him he's awesome. Do you think most of those people know the distinction between a guy that started a podcast, a guy that works for quote unquote credentialed media, a guy that's tweeting? Do you think they really understand all this, the distinction between that? I would argue it's very unlikely they do, unless it was a guy like Travis Frederick who told us about the programs he had at Wisconsin that specifically explained a lot of this stuff to him. The idea to expect these 23-year-olds to know the history and the background of all this, man, there's no way unless they actually studied it. So all of it is conflated. You brought up an interesting thing to me, KT. There's a new media person that runs PR for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, for the longest time, the Dallas Cowboys operated like the craziest franchise in all of sports. For as big as they were, the looseness with which they operated with the media is insane. And we have apples to apples because we dealt with the Rangers, we dealt with the Mavericks, to a far tiny lesser degree the Stars, but I had friends that worked in PR for the Stars and the Cowboys. When the Cowboys were at Valley Ranch, you could walk up to a secretary, say your name, and then walk back to the locker room. That's not an exaggeration. It was like that forever. And then they went to the star, and then they clamp down a little bit on that, but also a new media person that has worked for teams. I'm sorry, a PR person that handles media, that has worked in the business, coming into the Cowboys and seeing how it operates has got to be like, wait, what? Y'all do what? You're the fucking Cowboys. Y'all handle it this way? So that's going on right now at the same time, like someone going, this is unmanageable. We have to change the way that we do business. That's happening. And then you have these young people, and Trayvon Diggs was even talking about it. He thinks it's very normal when he's emotional after a game to pick up his phone and see what the world is saying about him before he even takes his pads off. Like, all of that is conflated and all of it's happening, and it creates this crazy thing. And I really don't think it's fair to players to ask them to do everything they do physically and then within a few minutes flush out all their emotions and go speak reasonably about a game. That's very impressive when guys can do that. So we've seen all of this shit spill out all at the same time, and all of our media is changing. You go back and you look at comments, the way people think it operates and the way that it functions. And so, to the original point of what Ben is asking about, I don't think the players see any distinction between any of this, whether it's fan media, social media, Channel 8. They know who the big dogs are on ESPN. They know those faces and they treat them differently. But when they're looking out at 12 guys and it's me standing next to Jeff Kolb, standing next to Mike Leslie, they don't know what the fuck that is. It's just a bunch of guys they think are tweeting about them.
Right. They don't know. And I do think it's more it even gets more complex on the heels of that. And it's funny when you guys were talking about, does Jerry even know what's going on? It reminds me of, we'd be on the air at the Fan, which, by the way, I think we all agree the Fan handled all of that right? We all agree?
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those guys handled that exceptionally well. Nothing but love and respect for the way those guys. That was a fucked up situation. They handled it really, really well. But we were on the air at the Fan, and I got a call. We were just talking Cowboys, and I got a call from Rosie, who was Jerry's driver and bodyguard. And he's like, "Hey, Ben, we're listening right now in the car. Can you pop Jerry on?" And then he handed the phone to Jerry, and Jerry's like, "Hello," and I'm like, well, this is my cell phone, I like there's Mr. Jones. Could you? And you guys are still talking, and what are you thinking? While I'm like,
I think if I remember correctly, you had held up your phone and said something. I think Rosie texted you.
You saw what it was. Okay,
we knew what you were dealing with, but we didn't know that he was calling you and you were talking.
Okay,
I don't think I did. I think we were just trying to carry on the show,
right? Because
we're actually on the air.
And so he just was listening and wanted to hop on, and they clearly don't know exactly where the lines are crazy blurry. But this is where it's blurry, and I think they have a right. The players have a right to be confused a little bit.
Yeah.
And really it has to do with, what I have tried to do. And, I didn't study journalism. I understand journalism, but I didn't study journalism. I studied marketing. And so for me, I look at a lot of things through a marketing lens. I want to grow the show. I want to stay on the air longer. We have a fun job. I want to support my family doing something I love. Like, we'd be talking sports with each other regardless if we did it professionally, because it's something that we're passionate about, and we do it in our own way. But there was a time in our business where it, and the ticket really helped with this. It went from just being, guys who are great at what they do, like Norm or Chuck Cooperstein, just talking about sports and stats and sports nerding out in an awesome way, to being, okay, these guys are in a band, they're funny and entertaining, and they goof off. Or Gordo doing fake Jerry, who really didn't seem, is probably the greatest thing to ever happen in local sports media is Gordon Keith and his impersonations and all the magic that he brings, but wasn't even really a big sports fan, right?
I don't think he knows shit about sports.
Right. So it's like, so when we kind of sneak into sports media, it was a unique time in sports where people liked to hear about the personalities of the players or what they're into off the field. And it was cool to have a relationship with a player. But I can understand, like, Trayvon Diggs, if he had given Mike Leslie a ton of interviews, or anytime Mike Leslie needs something, Trayvon Diggs is there. There's a working relationship at that point, right?
Yeah.
And So let's talk about Travis Frederick. Like, we love, love, love Travis Frederick. And I'll just be honest. Luckily, we didn't have to ever do this, but if Travis had a shit game, I wouldn't come out and trash him like I would trash a player that I have no tie to, no relationship with. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would.
And didn't part of that, Ben, have to do with your Marty B experience?
So, and look, yeah, there's been a lot of things along the way that where we've, I've been punched in the nuts or had failure and tried to learn from failure or had adversity or tried to learn from it or whatever. Because again, didn't study this shit. But when we're at ESPN, and I mean, you go back to the one and done boys where it's like, hey man, be opinionated. Just draw a fucking line, say they're going to be great or they're going to be terrible. That type of shit. I had to learn, trying to find my voice in this business or whatever, and it's not that. I don't want to be that. But so I'm at that time when we're at 103.3 ESPN and there's ESPN Dallas. Randy Galloway made it look so easy to do both, to be a columnist and to be a radio host. And so they're like, let's have the radio guys or let's have the writers on the radio show. And they were not always good at doing radio. Sometimes it was terrible. And then they're like, let's have the writers or let's have the radio hosts write for the website. And dude, we've seen our colleagues, people we know, plagiarize entire articles because they're just radio guys and know nothing about journalism or writing. And so all of that can be a shit show. So during all that, I had a relationship with Martellus Bennett. And I was like, man, I need to write this article. I wrote that he has been a beacon of disappointment in this article for ESPN Dallas. And when I saw him, he was like, or I don't know if he texted me or called me or if I don't remember what it was, but he was like, dude, I can't believe you wrote that. Like, how could you write that? I go, man, I'm just doing my job. And you have to admit, it has been, your career here has been a disappointment for whatever it is. It may not be your fault, but it's been a disappointing run here. And I'm just doing my job. And he goes, yeah, but we're friends. How can you do that about your friend? And man, I was kind of gutted and devastated because I did have a really cool relationship with Marty B, and I kind of understood where he was coming from. I didn't, so I can understand from a player standpoint, if you're doing favors for someone in the media, and you have a relationship, you would not expect them to be so, I don't know, so critical at certain points, right? Or do it in a way that is not attacking or in a way that might manifest into clicks or what have you.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And also think about this. Media has changed quite a bit. People can grab things, right, and show it to you immediately. If you don't think writers protected certain players back in the day, you're crazy. They absolutely did. Randy had players he protected for sure. Nolan Ryan, other players. He's even talked about the fact that once he got to know Mark Aguirre, he pulled back. Randy, I'm not betraying anybody's trust. I'm telling you that's human nature. And so back in the day, those players used to go drinking with the writers after the game because they're, beat writers were around the team a lot and they had relationships. And so, that's just a constant give and take, but we are definitely in an era, and it's been trending this way for a while. I mean, honestly, it started with the advent of cable news where one news channel was right leaning and one was left leaning. It's spilled over into everything as well as social media, but people want to see people fight. They want to watch conflict. That's like all of our oldest stories are conflict and conflict resolution. Every movie that comes out is basically a Shakespeare story, right? And so part of that is that if you want to ascend in the business, find some conflict. And we all said this, we knew it. Again, I had not listened to that morning show, I swear to God, in maybe 5 years. And is that Jerry Jones, Sean and RJ and Bobby thing was spilling out into the world. I was watching, I got to hear it. I actually went and clicked on a link and listened to it. And as I was listening to it, I was sitting there, and I think you guys said the same. I was sitting there going, God, man, this is so great for those guys. I'm happy for them. Because that's the world that we live in is, hey, these guys are fighting. Well, everybody go watch. These guys are fighting. That's what journalism or edutainment or whatever you want to call it. That's what it's become. And so the people that are just trying to get clicks and trying to get, attention to their channels or their product or whatever, they love that shit. They don't care about your relationship. They want the animosity and the grudge and all of that to spill out because people will lap it up.
Well, that was good for Mike Leslie too. And honestly,
Absolutely.
in the moment, Mike Leslie handled it well. A lot of people might have either cowered down or spouted off. When a player comes at you, that's an intimidating thing in front of your peers.
Yeah.
He handled it well, but it's a good thing for him. People know Mike Leslie way more than they ever did because of this.
Did you guys happen to see how Channel 8 handled it last night?
I did not.
So what they did is they did what journalists are supposed to do. Mike Leslie didn't do the story. Jonah Javad did. He reported on Mike Leslie and Trayvon Diggs, and they said WFAA reporter. Like, they treated it like a legitimate news organization.
Yes, Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, for the record.
Okay, well,
he
was there, and we saw the footage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do a think piece about his experience. He was in the story, and so FAA did the credible journalism thing and didn't have him report on himself. They had another reporter report on it, and so that's the way to handle it.
Okay, but what about the way the Cowboys handled this? Do you guys have a thought on that? Because
explain to me how they handled it, because I'm not fully sure I know.
You know what? I am not. I want to be 100% clear that I was not there, and I don't fully know the order of operations. But I believe PR was involved. There was a, for lack of a better term, photo opportunity, and they exchanged nuts to each other. And there's a famous line where Mike Leslie says, "I'll take the ranch. I'm not a banana guy." And
that is a famous line.
There was banana nuts.
Yeah.
And then, Mike says, "I apologize if I read that." Like, they had already had this conversation. Then they had it again in front of the media. I know there were some people in the media who were rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
And also, Cowboys, right? Mike McCarthy has got to be, I feel for him in this regard. Mike McCarthy, for all of his shortcomings, and there are many, he doesn't want a lot of the nonsense. And he had it so good in Green Bay, where there is no owner, and the town loves you. And you know what? It's kind of about winning, and that's the standard, and it never changes. And there's no ambiguity. We're winners here. We have a good team. The Cowboys and Packers roster structures are amazing. Very similar. Like, draft your own guys, pay your own guys. They don't do things a lot different there. Okay. Protect the cap when we can. They're not signing a lot of free agents. And then McCarthy comes here and he's like, man, we're at the bottom. He's fighting for his effing life. And maybe he's not fighting hard enough, I would argue. He's fighting for his effing life, and we got your star cornerback exchanging nuts with the Channel 8 guy. It is so Cowboys. There's an article in the Dallas Observer today from Kelly Dearmore that Ben and I are quoted in, along with, I think, Junior Miller and Dave Lane are in it as well. And it's basically an article about what are some things that make you say only the fucking Cowboys. And, we all have different stories. Mine was a little different than everyone else's. Ben was the overshown. It's worth a read because it's funny. It's not like this everywhere else. It's just not. And I think what Jerry should be focused on is less on the Cowboy success as he gets older. Seriously, he should really try to hammer home his legacy as the guy who got NFL on TV and the way that it is now in Sunday Ticket, because that's going to be better off for him. And this Cowboy stuff is just going to overshadow that. What Jerry did for the NFL, making it what it is today, that is something that a lot of Cowboy fans, I think, don't think about hardly ever.
Dude, he's in the Hall of Fame for that, KT. He's in the Hall of Fame as a contributor, primarily because of that, raising the value not only of the league, doing the TV deal, but the Cowboys are the number one most valuable franchise on the planet. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know a bunch about European soccer. I don't, but I have followed what happens over there with those structures and those entities. And that's astonishing that an American football club, because the NFL is not a global product. Soccer is.
They're trying to make it global.
They're trying to, but they're light years away from it. The NBA is far more global than the NFL is. We are confused by it because the NFL is so dominant here. That's how we see the world. It ain't like that. And for him to make the Dallas Cowboys the most valuable team on this planet, that's astonishing.
Man, my son Max is back from college. Like, he's back for a couple days, going to OU to watch Bama play OU, right? And so we were just talking last night, and I don't, just talking about the local teams and how excited I am about the Mavericks or whatever. And I think it was him, or maybe it was Miles, who said, "Hey, if you can only get one championship the rest of your life, which team would you want it to be?" And I was like, "The Mavericks." And he was like, they were all surprised because they know that they know I'm a Mavericks fan, but they know I'm a huge Cowboys fan. But I think I'm disenchanted to the point that I'm kind of sour on it all now. I just think after so long, it's just, I don't have any confidence that anything is ever going to change. If Jerry's doing his thing and he's involved, the culture's probably going to be fucked up, and they're going to have a great valuation. They're going to be a valuable franchise, but I have no confidence that the priority will ever be winning. And I think I'm finally to the point that I'm just kind of soured, and I'm like, man, this is just a circus that I watch. I don't have any expectation that it'll ever be good.
No, I agree with you. It's like the NFL is an amazing product for a lot of different reasons. The nature of the game, the time between games, how these stories evolve. Like, it's an amazing, amazing product. And I get a lot of joy out of watching the Cowboys when they're good. But I do think that I feel no emotional attachment to the Cowboys anymore. Like, I don't feel, and probably it was a little different too when we were at the fan and in the locker room quite a bit. You do get to know the players and those things. Like, I want good things for Dak, but I don't feel an emotional attachment to it like I do other things. And so, hey man, I'm going to watch every game. The NFL's new. I watch games that the Cowboys aren't in because the NFL is a great product. It can be incredibly entertaining, but I don't feel any kind of attachment to it. And I don't have expectations that we're going to be watching the type of excellence we watched from the Mavericks after the trade deadline last year, for example, or in 2011, or the Rangers in the World Series a year ago, that playoff run, that, 2 months of baseball that the Rangers delivered. I just don't expect that out of the Cowboys, really, probably I don't know how it would turn around, because what is it that we think is going to happen after Mike McCarthy gets run off? What is it that we think is going to happen that's going to change the fortunes?
Doug fucking Peterson. Get ready.
You don't mean that, dog.
I don't mean it.
No.
Can I show you guys something?
Yeah.
I have notified Jason that I'm going to try to share something. Our buddy Andrew, who I believe is listening. He tweeted this today. I thought this is good for any of you who are just tired of it. There you go. He's got a 6-point plan. Very simple. Number one, pick a player, any player. So let's say you're a big Zay Flowers fan of the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, buy his jersey. You have to buy his jersey. That's number two. I think that's important. Number three, you just watch his games. 4, you enjoy it. 5, you laugh at all the memes that you see, though. All right, but they can't hurt you anymore. And then 6, drink Roller Town beer. It's a 6-point plan. There's a support line, I believe, that you can call if you help going through this.
You guys remember, you know where I'm going with this, right?
The guy who married the Chiefs or whatever.
Yeah, the guy who's like, I'm a lifetime Cowboy fan. I'm leaving the Cowboys. I'm bailing, like I'm totally out, and I'm committing myself to the Chiefs. And at the time he did that, I don't, I think it was before their run, right?
Oh yeah, that was We might have been. Were you with us, KT, or was that ESPN?
I don't remember this.
I
Okay,
think
so
that was ESPN, Ben. I think that was like a decade ago or more.
that was ESPN, and he circled back like a couple weeks ago on Facebook. He goes, "See, told you I'm all Chiefs all the time." And I went and looked at his like Facebook page. It's just all Chiefs jerseys, rooting for the Chiefs. Like he legitimately jumped off the Cowboys bandwagon, chose another team, and then they've gone on a historic run, and he couldn't be more rewarded.
Was this fake Ben Rogers?
No,
No.
He's a Chiefs fan.
no. This was. I can still see the guy. I think
Yeah.
we had him in studio.
Yeah, he was a neighbor. He lived over by us where
Yeah.
we used to live. Yeah, he came in the studio to talk about that.
That's
I
amazing.
couldn't tell you his name, but I can see. I remember what he looked like, and I'm happy for him, dude. My wife is a Chiefs fan because of Taylor and Kelsey, so I'm happy for her that her team's undefeated.
I saw
They
that.
won. Were they off this week?
No, they beat the Raiders barely. They win a lot of one-score games, but they're 7-0. I saw a thing today. It was talking about the 49ers. The 49ers are the third oldest team in the league, but the Chiefs are the third youngest team in the league.
Wow.
And the point of the article was a big, long thing on if they should sign Brock Purdy because they're starting to feel giving up 3, first-round picks for Trey Lance and all that stuff. But I thought it was interesting. I also saw that Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey won People Magazine's an award. I didn't know. People Magazine's sexiest podcast host. They won that award.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I
Have they
watched
not-
them.
Have they not seen Jake on the Dumb Zone? Because that guy's a smoke show.
Yeah, he is.
You know what else I watched? I did not watch the full episode. I turned it off, but I legitimately was curious to see how he did. I flipped it over to Amazon Prime a couple weeks ago because hosting a game show called Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity is Travis Kelsey. And I tell you, he's good. He's like, the charisma's there, but he's not a very good game show host.
What a
Oh.
surprise.
And that's why I watched it because I'm grading these things as the game show host critic now. He was lacking, and the problem is he's so much taller than everyone else on the stage too, though. So it didn't really match up.
Yeah,
And he said, "Let's go." 100 times.
you've
kinda-
you've always said being 5'3" is one of your gifts to game show hosting.
What it is. That's one of the things I said. I've said a few things about Puerto Rico.
By the way, seriously, I don't want to get us in trouble, but most Puerto Ricans are short. Okay. I want to find a place. You guys need to tell me because I get real busy this time of year. Where can I get some Kelsey content? I don't see those guys near enough. Can you direct me to wherever I can find them? Because I'm missing out on a lot of their gold.
Get ready. They're about to give Jason Kelsey, I'm serious, not a highlight show. They're about to give him a late night talk show on ESPN.
I saw that.
I think he might be my favorite Kelsey.
He's funnier.
I like their mom. They got that mother.
Oh, no.
That mother, God, that was such a good one.
See, that's the Jerry I
Oh.
miss when he kind of is like on the edge of saying he wants to have sex with a player's mother. Like, I miss that stuff.
Jalen Smith's mom, man.
I don't want him serious about football. I want him saying that Troy looks good in the shower. That's
Right.
my Jerry.
Yeah,
They got Rod Smith. Remember they got Rod Smith on the team after they drafted Jalen? Like, Rod Smith is not an NFL player, and they put him on the team. And they got that beautiful mother.